Don't play with it, don't be dishonest. Still.
In today's video, we are going to be talking about how my fake ex-boyfriend faked his suicide. So if suicide is a rough topic for you, please do not watch this video. It started in kindergarten. We became best friends in kindergarten, and I don't remember how, but we did, and we grew up together. By the time we were in 5th grade, I had a crush on this other boy, and he wanted to tell people that he had a girlfriend. So he had asked, he's like, "Well, how about you be my fake girlfriend so where we can tell each other that we have like a boyfriend and tell other people." And I'm like, this is perfect. I can make my crush jealous. Obviously, my crush did not care one bit about me, but that's just how my brain worked back then. So we got in a fake relationship, and he had called my dad's house phone because my dad had his normal mobile phone and then a house phone. And so he had my dad's house phone, which we talked on when I was there. And he called it while I was gone, knowing I was not there, and he had asked my dad if we could go on a date. By the way, by this time I believe I was in 6th grade, and so my dad told him no. We're only allowed to be like school boyfriend and girlfriend, so like fake. And so by time we got to 8th grade, he had sat me down on a bench and he had told me that he really loved me, and this entire time, like, we had only been like friends, but we were together. And so, I'm like, okay, I'm like, I love you too, not realizing that he meant like he really, really loved me. And so then the next day, when I tried to get a hold of him, he didn't answer. And it was like that for the next year. And I found out he had went to Florida and he had left to go live with his real mom. And I was so upset, and he had come back. But when he came back, I found out that he was kissing on a girl at Walmart, and I caught him myself kissing on a girl at Walmart. And so I was upset, so I just turned around and walked away. And I knew we weren't together, like really together. I don't know. It was just like I wasn't upset at him for kissing the girl. I was upset at him for leaving and changing all his contacts and making it where I can't get a hold of him. And so I just left, and then he wanted an apology. And of course, I was not giving that apology. And I did tell him that, I feel like I deserve an apology. And he also refused to give that apology. So I'm like, like, we were never really good for each other. We were very toxic. And it's probably best we don't be friends. And so for like a whole year, he knew exactly when we went to the store, because we always go to the store at the same time every month. And he would like meet me in Walmart to try to convince me to forgive him. And this right here, it just made me upset because that wasn't the first time he had left me. This was like the 4th time he had left me without saying anything. So I was like, no, I'm like, we can talk, but we're never going to be best friends again. Like, nothing like that's going to happen again. And so that's kind of where we were. And the last time he had talked to me, he had told me, he's like, I really love you. I really wish you would forgive me. Like, it's killing me that you haven't really forgiven me. And I'm like, well, I've forgiven you about them as much as I can forgive you. And then I told him, like, you have to understand my side. You left without telling me. You cut off all your contacts. I wasn't able to get a hold of your parents. I wasn't able to talk to your friends. I wasn't able to get a hold of you for this whole time. And we've been best friends and been practically inseparable since we were in kindergarten. And I'm like, then you just went and left me. And it was at the time I needed him the most. Like, so many people were like passing away around me and like was leaving. And so I got some real serious like abandonment issues from it. And so I'm like, I'm sorry, but you can't just expect to say sorry and then me forgive you. I said, it takes time. You can't just expect it. And he's like, it's been a year. And I'm like, and haven't you seen how much it's changed in this year? Like we've grown close. I talk to you. We're back to talking normal. I mean, I don't know what more you want from me. He's like, well, I want to be in a relationship with you. And I'm like, no, you have a girlfriend. And there was more to the story, but it was a very long conversation cut short, and I practically just turned around and walked away. And that's something that no one knows. Like, no one knows that entire part. Everyone only knows that I said no and walked away. And so, next thing I know, I was in Brothers Market, which is like Green Hills. It was originally Green Hills, turned into Brothers Market. And had told me that he killed himself. And then I'd met his girlfriend out like by the parking lot, I believe. And she slapped me in the face crying, saying that, it was all my fault. I could have just forgiven him, said I was sorry, and moved on with my life and just never talked to him again. Like, like I was selfish and all this. And I remember that day getting a deep gut feeling. I refused to believe that he was dead. And everyone around me was like blaming me except for my family, but like my friends, the people at my school, like just everyone was blaming me for his death. And I just mentally could not handle it, and I was just getting like really depressed because I kept saying, well, maybe I am the problem, maybe it was my fault. And I blamed myself for the longest time because I'm like, I could have just forgiven him and it just would have just went back to normal. And for the longest time, I refused to believe he was dead. And like I even like became like chose the career like when I went from being like a mom, because I always wanted to be a mom growing up, to like being a detective just because I wanted to find out if he was actually dead or not. Just because like I couldn't get a hold of his parents, and the only ones who had told me was his girlfriend, well, at the time ex-girlfriend, who was crazy jealous over me, and his best friend who liked me, but I rejected him. And so I'm like, I can't really trust it. But then everyone at school found out, and so I'm like, well, maybe it is true. And I finally accepted that it was true. And the day in church that I finally accepted that it was true, this one person told me like it was my fault. And I've been told this several times, but just by this person, it really hurt. And so I started crying, and my aunt saw that I was crying. And so she had pulled me aside when I come home, and she had told everyone else, they're like, she's like, go in. And then she's like, I want to talk to her. And she talked to me, and she said, I heard what that person said to you, and I want you to know it was not your fault. You were not the one holding, it was him. And she's like, there's always more to the story. And she's like, I just want you to know it was not your fault. And I just sat and cried on her shoulder because I was so like sad, and I was finally just mentally drained, and I was done, and I was sick of being the one who was to blame. And so I finally was able to let it go and to accept that it was not my fault. And then not to be a month later, my mom was scrolling through Facebook, and she finds this person, and she's like, Josephine, come here. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And then she's like, isn't this Levi? And that's the boy's name. It's not his name now, which is why I'm okay with saying it. And I'm like, yeah, that's him. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, that looks just like him. I'm like, maybe he has a cousin or something. And I later found out that it was him, that he was still alive. And this entire time, he was never dead. He never passed away. And that he came up with this like elaborate plan to like get back at me or whatever it was. And he then messaged me after he found out that I accidentally sent him a friends request, and I like unfriends requested. And then he told me, he's like, I'm sorry, like I didn't mean to. Like my parents got in a car accident. I was readopted, and like they changed my name. And I'm just sitting here this entire time. At first, I'm like, oh, well, like I understand that. But then I'm like, you know what? I hope the best for him in life. I really do. And I care so much for him. But I'm not going to get in a relationship with him just because I feel sorry. And The reason I came to this conclusion is because I have found out that this girl, his ex, moved all the way across the country to be with him. And then he's sitting here in my messages telling me he wants to be with me, that he only cares about me, and that it's always been me. And so I'm like, no, you know what? I'm gonna let him live his life, but he's not gonna live it with me. Um, I really care and respect for him. He has done a lot of bad stuff, but he's not a bad guy. And so I do hope the best for him, just not with me. And there has been a lot of people who has told me I was cruel and that it wasn't nice of me. But if you guys were in my shoes, like, what would you have done? Because I just finally got tired and wore out, and I was done. I hope you miracles like this video. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below what other kind of story times you want to hear.